You've tuned in to the chipsgrooveradio podcast with hosts Mike and Jon. Well, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Mike, and with me today is Jon. How are you doing, Jon?
I'm good. I'm feeling heroic.
Magical?
And magical.
How about mighty?
Yeah, definitely mighty.
Definitely mighty. Well, we are covering the very first Heroes of Might and Magic of a not super long series, but an impactful one. This is the beginning of a popular offshoot of the Might and Magic franchise. One that I would actually contend is might be better. Did you dabble in this series at all?
I never played Might and Magic. I never played the RPG. I definitely played Heroes of Might and Magic, though.
Oh yeah.
Started probably Homie 2, and then I think 2, 3, 4. I think I played the latest one that they had on Steam for a little bit.
I haven't played anything beyond 3, honestly.
Yeah.
What I am to understand is 3 is the pinnacle for gameplay, at least.
Mm-hmm.
We've got quite an album here, and it's composed by two gentlemen, Paul Romero and Robert King. It is notable that Romero, I believe, is a child prodigy. He was classically trained. He's an amazing composer, and I believe he received a full scholarship at the age of 16 to Curtis Institute of Music. It makes me question the decisions in my life at the age of 38.
Same.
At a job I hate, making okay money. But, I mean, that's the short version of this guy's accomplishments. He's an absolute master pianist, and his elegance, I think, is felt throughout this album. I don't want to continue without mentioning Robert King. He also contributes to this album. And I think the two guys work together very well because the album comes together pretty nicely. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a continuous theme to it. There are some of the songs have titles that maybe don't match the sound itself.
Yes, thank you. I have that note.
But overall, it's very whimsical. It's like the entire album's very whimsical. You feel that kind of magical forest feel to it.
I mean this in the best way possible, but this album strikes me as going to how do I say this without sounding like a dick? Going to like a Magic Kingdom built for kids. You know, it's like an attraction, and you're all the different rooms have these different soundtracks and soundscapes, and they're all very mystical and magical and flamboyant. And I think it definitely fits the game, and they're really good pieces, but I think it just kind of drew that image for me a little bit. Now, some backstory to the game. It is a game in which the human Morglin Iron Fist, porn name if I've ever heard one, he is usurped by his cousin and uncle after they killed his father. He escapes through a magic portal into a new and mysterious realm, full of strange beasts and warring factions. He clashes with the barbarians, sorceresses, and warlocks, building up his army to eventually reign supreme. Now, the idea behind this game, it is a tactical game, but it is pretty different than, say, an RTS game like we just covered. You choose one of the 4 factions to control, and you write your own story, essentially. Each group has its own individual arsenal of creatures and humanoids to choose from. Each has their ups and downs. The balance is pretty well. You explore with a hero and their company, I guess you would say. You find treasure, you take control of resources, and you build your city up little by little. This is what I would call the king of hot seat games in the mid-90s. Each turn is dictated by the distance your hero can move and explore. Once you've done that, you You click back on your kingdom and you make whatever changes you can before the sun sets. And then it is your friend's turn. You swap seats generally. That's how I did it. We would play at the same computer. I would get up, my friend would sit down and take his turn. It's a great series, relaxing as hell, and I've still never beaten my friend Mike, so I will always be salty about that.
Yeah, it is definitely the king of hot seat gaming. I don't think I ever played multiplayer without it being hot seat, even in the later versions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great tactical game. Kind of has a bit of that like city builder or like maybe like Civilization style game where you're building these cities up and making decisions about what units you want to produce and that kind of thing. But then it has that kind of character building element where you have spells and armor and equipment. Although I don't know if in the first one did they have that?
I believe
all
they
that stuff?
did. They had. Yeah. I believe you could customize with things you would find while you're exploring. You would find relics that would give you intelligence or dexterity, things like that. So you could equip your character and make them as good as you could. I didn't get very lucky ever. So I don't know if it stayed that. I don't know if the pieces were always in the same spot or not, but yeah, I always seem to lose. But yeah, let's dive in. What song would you like to cover first?
I think we gotta go right to the heart of it and start with Night City, the hero's human city here.
Yeah.
It kind of invokes that image of a huge ballroom where lords and ladies are doing some weird medieval coordinated dance together, maybe with masks on. I don't know. But it has these like lovely flute trills that make way for a wonderful oboe solo in the middle. Starts a trail into a more mystical tune near the end before kind of all coming back together for the finale. It's a great journey of a track.
I would say this one is probably the most on the nose of the songs. It's very, it screams human in that time.
Yeah.
You know, I would call it tropey, not in a derogatory word, but to me it screams of the knights and horses, banners flying everywhere. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance of this noble kingdom. Very well put together song. It's very jovial to listen to. And it never really, you were talking about that breakdown. It never really stops off long enough, in my opinion, to forget that main theme, the blaring horns and the singing violins. Very good song. It's probably because, it's a human character that the story revolves around, probably the main theme of the game.
Yeah, I would think so. How about you? What's a song that really speaks to you here?
One that I really like, but I think is one of the songs we were talking about, where the title does not match. This one stands out to me the most is Barbarian City.
Oh yeah, Barbarian City. That's what I was gonna get.
This is a little too sophisticated for barbarians, don't you think?
I literally wrote this starts way too sophisticated, harpsichord and all.
It's so good though. Like
it is.
Like
good.
You could have put this on almost any other faction. It probably would have fit better. But that harpsichord is wild and fast in the beginning, and there's some strings to come in to kind of accommodate that harpsichord. It begins this really fun song. Instruments are added with each measure, flute, trumpet, etc. It continues to build on itself and become more interesting. Towards the middle, I think everything cuts out to have a little bit of a flute solo. Becomes a little less ominous and more flighty, I would say.
Yeah.
I get meadows and fairies in this section. Maybe a babbling brook. But again, I think the key with this song is it does not scream skull-crushing barbarians.
No. There is when the trumpets start to fill in the middle there,
Mm-hmm.
it does start to get more chaotic and wild. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be like the barbarians have come and they are changing our ways? And then it's a slow flute and guitar to it. But then peace is broken. All the instruments come back in, and it's fast and loud. And you know,
and this is not to say that the song is bad in any way.
No.
I think it's a fantastic song. I think the titles are a little hit or miss with this album, but that is one of my favorite tracks.
I would have to wonder if maybe Paul Romero isn't too familiar with the nature of like Dungeons and Dragons and that kind of tropiness of it. I mean, this was what, back in 1990?
95 maybe?
Oh yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, back in 1995. So it was maybe he just wasn't familiar with it, or they didn't give him good enough direction. But there's some of it in it that like you could like kind of wedge your way into being a little bit barbarian. But yeah,
they are the most uptight and pompous barbarians you've ever met.
That's right.
So what about you? What's your next song?
I think Combat 1 is a great. So there's like 4 combat songs in it, and I think this is probably my favorite one.
It is definitely the one I remember the most.
Yeah. You have these bongos giving away to like a muted xylophone, kind of that tribal-ish beat to it, fast beat drums that kind of sit alongside these long tones of wind instruments. And then you have these crash cymbals that really like invoke the feeling of armies clashing together. It's a great like driving song that really does fit the theme of it being a combat.
I really think my favorite part of the song is the xylophone choice. That's very different, but it kind of drives that main theme of the song, and it keeps it going. I think it adds a little tension to it. I don't know what it is about the xylophone that stands out to me, but along with those drums, you get this very tribal and primitive feeling to it, and I really like it.
Yeah, it definitely has that that tribal feel. So it fits. I know, like in this game, there's the warlocks and sorcerers. It would fit with like the imps maybe, or like the orcs and stuff. I forget the
it's a little more. Yeah, I guess primitive is the word, but yeah, like not quite as swords and fireballs as anything else. But yeah, I think that fits.
Be a great barbarian city song.
Yes, you are correct. If this was what you heard while you were building your city, I agree. Drums at least. Come on.
Give us some drums at least.
Even that xylophone.
Yeah. There's skulls of the enemy.
Yes. Different sized skulls.
How about you? What song kind of speaks to you next?
Next, I think it's easily going to be Sorceress City. This song has some real style that I really enjoy. It starts out with that howling instrument.
I said epic start with horns. I think it either is a French horn,
but I'm like,
is it a French horn or maybe a baritone? Hold on. Yeah,
I just didn't know what kind of horn, so I didn't want to.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe a French horn, or yeah, but I love the epic like opening to the track. It's very evocative.
Yeah, those horns really give it immediate depth. It feels like this vast landscape, and which is appropriate because you're building up a city, and it just immediately conjures that image of a far and away time, a mystical time with dragons and magic. I think this one is one of those songs that really kind of captures the game. Outside, we talked about Night City earlier. I think this one is a little less direct. They applied it
on the other side.
Yeah. that pluck of the harps on those accents really gives it extra strength too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those nice little additions that keep it sharp and intricate. When the harp gets going with that melody, it turns into this really calm and beautiful tune. I actually think it's just lively enough not to be sad. It kind of rides that line. But as it progresses, you get a little bit more hopeful as the strings go up in scale. It becomes a little bit more whimsical, but that backing cello and strings, they add the depth that really make it come together.
Yeah, I think it kind of calms down to that like medieval lute solo with soft violins,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lute or a harp or something, and then it all builds back up with the horns, crescendos, and there's like that little trumpet duet. I think it's a trumpet duet or something in the middle that's really,
Yeah.
really sick. Yeah, and it's just I wrote "Make Way for the Sorceress" at the end. There. Like, it's just
Pretty
like,
much. Yeah.
Make way.
It's a very good song. I think this one is just a beautiful song, and it evokes that image and just sticks with it.
It definitely fits with the theme of the Sorcerer's City as well as the game as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's more on that magical side of the might and magic.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Agreed. So, what would be your next song?
I mean, we got to talk about Warlock City. It also is a little bit. I don't know if this fully fits with the theme of a warlock, but it kind of has that flute and harpsichord start with a pipe organ that leads the song in. Turns a bit sinister, so it kind of gets more into that warlock feeling.
You're on the right path. I've got that word in here too.
As a good warlock track should.
Yeah.
And there's like a cacophony in the middle that kind of falls away to this guitar solo. Maybe the warlock is meeting with his patron and they're having a quiet conversation.
I think it evokes that image of something a little sneakier and out of the eyes of the public. So I think they succeeded there. I think when the strings take over towards the middle, the song has a little bit lighter of a feel, but it gets a little bit more playful. And I think overall, I would call the song sinister, but in that section alone, it changes just a little bit. But yeah, I think it's interesting that you said sinister because I actually have that word in here. And I think they must have done something right if we both came up with that word. I think
sure. I need to take back what I said at the beginning. This one does fit. I was thinking of a different song, but this one definitely fits the theme of the Warlock City. And yeah, at the end, it kind of builds back into that cacophony of sound to kind of close out. Great, the warlock mixing with magic that maybe he shouldn't.
Yeah. Those pesky warlocks always getting into shit.
That's right.
I think for my last song, I want to talk about Combat 4. This one stuck out to me because immediately I think it's different than the other battles we've heard so far. There are 3 other tracks dedicated to battles, and this one feels a little bit slower and more deliberate. There's a choir that kicks in to kind of slowly build the song up. And as each measure passes, a new instrument kind of joins in. It feels very intense and like the world hangs in the balance in the song. I feel like this one's a little bit more is at stake in this song. It's not bombastic and edgy. It's very solemn and calm. but the mixture of instruments drive home that urgency that has been missing, I think, from the other combat songs.
I wrote like a plodding start, strong timpani like drums with a long cello or bass note.
Mm-hmm.
The vocalization, the kind of brings it together. And then it just feels like these are two armies facing off against each other, standing on two opposite sides of a hill, banners waving in the wind as they get ready to fight.
Yeah.
Has that like we're about to get into a fight kind of feel.
When this song comes on, and I don't quite remember how it falls together and which combat song fits which battle, or if it's even relegated to anything specific, but this one feels like, you've built your army up. You've got griffins and dragons going at it now, not just imps and ogres or orcs. It's the big stuff, big leagues here. This one feels just a little bit more serious to me. So
yeah, for sure. For my last one, I think Heroes March, which I think is the Overland music when you're playing Overland. I love the like little bird sound effects and running water. It's a very like whimsical track. Has a really fun crescendo in the middle there. It really does invoke that like feeling that you're traveling through the land and going to a house and asking somebody for what quest they need done or whatever. It's great. It's a great Overland sound.
I think they captured the essence of the game with that song. When I say that, I know I've said that for the Barbarian City or whatever, but in this aspect, the exploration is huge in this game, and it's just comforting. It's relaxing, and I think I described it earlier as this game is relaxing as hell to me. Like, you can just take your time with it and enjoy the journey. And that is as much part of the game as the fighting is. And so, yeah, they nailed that. I agree.
Yeah, definitely has that feeling of just go around and explore, take your time, build up your armies, but don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
And we'd be remiss to not talk about Conquer All for just a brief second.
Yes.
For a song that is labeled Conquer All.
Yes.
It's like the most whimsical, happy, lively harpsichord acoustic guitar.
Here comes the acoustic guitar.
Like Conquer All.
Yes, it is very it's definitely an end game song, but it has such a powerful title you almost expect something different.
Yeah, a little bit more epic.
It's not overly joyous, but it does have that feeling of accomplishment behind it. So, what are your final thoughts on this album?
It's a extremely well composed album, and it's obvious that the guy really knew how to compose for kind of classical medieval instruments. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of what you want from a medieval fantasy track, where you have the harpsichords and the lutes and kind of those medieval themes. It does invoke that feeling, and it helps with the idea that this game is a bit more take your time and explore the world. And it fits very well with the actual gameplay.
Very well said. I think far be it for me to criticize the men of such talent. As we said earlier, Romero is a child prodigy, so They did a great job constructing this album. I think it's assembled very well. There isn't a bad song on here. However, I do think there are some inconsistencies. I'm not as... I know they don't all have to be, bangers or anything like that, but I think there are some songs that just kind of miss the mark on what it could have been. So I will knock it for that. Unfortunately, I don't think this soundtrack is really available to purchase anywhere.
Oh, really?
I looked around. I couldn't really find it. However, there are plenty of ways to hear it online, YouTube, Internet Archives. You can hear it relatively easily. It's definitely worth a listen. It's expertly and intricately crafted start to a series that got better with each iteration, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to say, thinking back on some of the other homie games, they definitely had up their game when it came to soundtrack, especially fitting the themes with some of the creatures that you would be able to play. I think they nailed it, and maybe the first iteration was a bit of a trial run, and they obviously got it right going forward.
How many? I'm going to give this an 8 magic missile out of 10.
That's fair. I would give it probably I would recruit 7 of the unicorns out of the possible 10 unicorns I can recruit.
All right. Those guys were feisty, weren't they?
Yeah,
am I right in remembering those guys were assholes? Those guys were tough.
They were probably one of the toughest units in the game.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We highly recommend this album, Heroes of Might and Magic 1 by Romero and King. And that's the show.
We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Also, check out Magus Media's other podcast, This Is Not Happening, Another X-Files podcast, for complete episode breakdowns, insightful banter, and inane babble. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.